Welcome back, boys and ghouls. This is Boys and Ghouls Film Review with you guys. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson. This is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
And tonight we will be reviewing a fantasy romance movie called Somewhere in Time that was released in 1980.
Yeah, it's a romantic fantasy drama.
And under the radar type movie.
Yeah, and under the radar. We were just talking about it a few moments ago. It's one of those movies which should have fared better at the box office.
But unfortunately, someone else beat them to it.
Well, there's another good movie came out at the same time. I'll talk about that later on. Being a lower budget film, the studio didn't push it too hard, and then I think there was an actor strike at the same time, which means the actors couldn't press too hard for the marketing side. So all of a sudden, it just slipped and fell off the perch, and people didn't know it existed. Aha!
Now, I'm sad to say that.
Now, having said that, it's a romantic drama, guys. If you like action movies, it's not an action movie. However, if you want to snuggle up with your girlfriend or your wife, they might like it. So you might win some brownie points.
Yes, exactly.
Anyway, here we go. Produced by Stephen Deutsch, I think it's the right pronunciation, Deutschsch. SCH. It's Ray Stark. Directed by Jano Zark, I think is the right pronunciation for that one too. Now it gets on easier. Screenplay by Richard Matheson, based on a novel book, Bid Time Return, a 1975 book written by the same person, Richard Matheson.
Nice of him.
Yeah, so he wrote the book and he did the screenplay. So
yeah, interesting thing, guys.
But he changed it.
Interesting thing, guys, that this Richard guy, the writer, I mean, not the character, because the character's also named Richard, although he has a different surname. But in this, he did went to a. Well, I'll explain when we get to the characters.
It would be nice. You can explain it later on.
Okay, well.
Okay. Budget, $4 million. So, I mean,
sorry, guys.
It was a cheap and not cheap, a low budget movie. Only box office at 10. Could have done better.
Damn.
Has been released on home media, and there's a lot around. If you're inclined to purchase or rent through Amazon Prime or something or other, there's plenty there.
Yeah, now I remember what I was going to say. The character who is playing the main protagonist in this movie is actually named Richard too.
Richard
also,
too.
I mean.
And also.
I mean.
Yeah, he played Richard Collier. Now, whether it's based on himself, he's a playwright, and the other guy's a novelist. I don't think so.
I think he does, actually, because in this one, I should say, he spends his time at a hotel, and dear old Richard, the author, he spent his time at a hotel, and there he sat and wrote this wonderful story.
And so did Stephen King when he wrote The Shining, okay? He did the same, went to motels, hey, this is a great place for a ghost story, and he wrote a book. And by the way, they're just names, of course, when I get down to the cast, Christopher Plummer plays a guy, William Fawcett Robinson.
Yeah.
If you shorten his name, it's come to Will Robinson, and now it's a little boy in Lost in Space. So I don't know if that was intended, but
you have to talk to the writer.
You have to talk to the writer, exactly right. Now, I think he just grabbed some names out of the hat, and those ones worked. Anyway, back to where I was. Box office 10 million, under the radar, yada yada yada. Now, cast: Christopher Reeve, prior to his wheelchair, plays Richard Collier. He's a playwright. It starts off early in the movie, early, but Sarah tells a story. But he plays a younger man and an older man quite well. Jane Seymour, lovely as ever. She plays Elise McKenna. I'll use the word actress, but they call them all actors nowadays, but she's a female. Christopher Plummer plays William Fawcett Robinson, Elise's manager and protector.
And bodyguard.
And I think he had the hots for her.
I don't think so, but he thinks she has the potential of being great and doesn't need to be distracted by men.
I think he had underlying. I've had you under my care since you were 16, yada yada yada, and hasn't let another man near her.
Yeah.
That sounds like he's, yeah.
Yeah, that sounds...
He's grooming her. Anyway, irrespective, I think I can't say too much at the moment. Sarah can roll into the plot in a moment.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything else to say. Yeah. Anyway, I'll talk about the rest of the stuff later.
Yeah. So my story begins where a bunch of kids, well, not kids, I mean students have just finished a stage production at the university, and of course, Richard, who who wrote it, and he meets this old lady, say I don't know how old.
Oh, maybe in her 80s. Just roll on, okay?
And she gives him an old pocket watch and whispers, "Come back." To me. And she then walks off, and he's puzzled, like he's confused.
He's this old bat before his life.
And then she goes to her hotel, the Grand Hotel, whatever. And
yeah, probably.
And she dies that very same night.
Oh, shame.
Then 10 years later, I think.
8 years, I think.
Yeah,
whatever, it doesn't matter.
10 years. He's a successful playwright, and he's living in the city, and he's having writer's block.
Yeah, it gets that way. He's had some successful plays.
And his girlfriend dumped him.
His girlfriend dumped him, and he's bugger. So he goes away for a bit of a break to clear his head. Yeah.
So he goes to the same hotel where the old lady stayed at. Yeah. Hint, hint, guys.
Funny that, eh?
Yeah. And so he stays there he says he plans on staying for just one night.
Didn't work.
And while he's waiting for dinner time, he then goes into a sort of hall of history.
A little gallery,
yeah. Where it has Victorian old plates, old artwork and stuff like that.
I don't think it'd be Victorian, but old stuff from 100 years ago or stuff, and 80 years ago, when the hotel, whatever, was first built.
Yeah, and there he sees this beautiful picture of a beautiful actress.
Yeah, young
although
woman.
at the time there was no nameplate on it.
Yeah, the nameplate had fallen off the wall, and the name wasn't there.
Yeah, hint, hint.
But he did ask this old porter guy a bit about the picture. He said, I know that one. I knew the lady.
See, the old porter guy, his family has worked at the motel for a long time.
And he was actually probably born there and raised there, and he got a job there. So he's hasn't seen much of the world, has he, folks?
How do we know? Anyway, moving right along. So Richard becomes obsessed with the portrait. Like, he can't sleep, he can't eat. He can't sleep, and he keeps thinking of the portrait and thinking about Elise, the lady in the portrait.
Pretty lady.
And so he decides to stay a few more nights, and he goes to the library to find out a little bit more about her, and he finds out that the young lady in the portrait is the same lady who gave him that watch 10 years ago.
Exactly, because he saw a picture of her in this journal or newspaper or book or whatever.
Yeah.
How she looked just before she died, and he recognised her.
Yeah, and the very lady who wrote that one of those books was a maidservant that used to work for her and has kept a collection of odds and pieces that belonged to the old lady.
Old dresses and objects, which personal things to her. Yeah.
Yeah, she plans on probably donating them to either an acting college or acting school.
But the funny part is, he shows her the watch.
Yeah, and
where did you get that from? She never let him out of her sight.
Yeah. Yeah, she even shows him a special music box that plays a certain type of music that he's like. Rhapsody something.
Rhapsody something or other. Yeah.
Yeah, it's an awesome song, and it's played throughout this movie, which makes it a beautiful
Rhapsody
song.
On a theme of Paganini, I think it was called.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song. I've been playing it just a while ago. It's so beautiful.
One of his favourite tunes.
Yeah. Anyway, so he gets the idea in his head to go back in time to visit Elise when she first started doing a play at the Grand Hotel.
Well, he didn't get the idea. He wondered whether it was possible because he saw a book on the lady's shelf written by his old professor at school or something or other about time travelling. He said, I wonder. So he went to see his old professor. He says, is it possible?
Yeah.
And then he had a bit of a discussion with us. Yeah, but you got to really, really, really concentrate.
Yes.
And it's dangerous, he said.
Yeah, see, it's a matter of mind over matter in this case.
I don't mind if it doesn't really matter.
Anyway, the point is that he says to remove all the objects from your room and lie down and focus on the time and the exact spot you want to be in. Sort of a little bit of, it sort of like reminds me a little of astro projection almost.
Yeah, a little bit like that. But it's more of a physical thing.
True. Anyway, he tries this. Before he tries it, he actually gets some old coins that are 1912.
Well, all currency,
and
some old clothes.
He got some old clothes, probably from an acting school or from a stage,
stage production company,
rental people. And he cuts his hair in the similar style of the that 1912 period.
Yeah, he was scruffy 80s, slightly longer hair and stuff.
Longer hair down, curly a
So
little
he
bit.
made himself look reasonably presentable.
Yeah, so he then records what his teacher told him to repeat this in your head, all that stuff. But every time he fails because they didn't have the tape recorders back then like that.
He used a tape recorder. He recorded himself saying, "You're going back in time. You're doing something or other," blah, trying to talk himself down. Problem is, having the tape recorder in the room and playing was a link to the current time.
Yeah.
So in the end, he realised, I think he must have, didn't say it anywhere, but he turned it off, put it under the bed so he couldn't see it, out of sight, out of mind, and then by this time he had the real conviction that I can really do this, and he did.
Yeah. Soon enough, he starts saying it in his out loud, the words, and then soon enough we see the curtains starting to change, and then the wallpaper begins to change into the 1912
and then you see
theme.
portraits appearing on the wall, like the old furniture is being restored to the scene. Yeah,
soon enough, after a few minutes and a bit of lighting change, we arrive in the 1912s. And
I think 1912. Yeah.
Yeah,
That rings a bell.
And he opens his eyes and sees the whole room is different, of course, and of course it's occupied by different people.
Well, I was going to say he's in the wrong room, obviously.
Yeah, so
He didn't. He's supposed to have a room there tomorrow, not today.
yes. So he leaves and he plans on calling upon Elise, but she's not there. So he heads to the playhouse down.
Yeah, they got a little theatre at this motel as well.
He then also encounters the old porter's now a little 6-year-old.
Old 60 or 70, I don't know. He's an old guy, yeah. And it's quite funny. The old porter he starts to talk to, and then blah blah and yada yada. And as the porter's walking away, he turns around and says to him, "Have we met before?"
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the old porter did that.
Yeah, and Richard says, "No, I don't think so." But he doesn't realise he's going to meet him later on when he's a kid. Aha!
Yeah. So he meets him, and of course he remembers now that this is the old porter, and also the old porter mentioned that he would often play ball in the lobby,
so
and he would have been told off by his dad
So when
severely.
Richard goes down the lobby, he sees this young kid there at the ball, and that's Arthur.
Yeah.
Arthur, yeah.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, when he's a child. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so he heads into the play, the stage place where they do the plays, the theatre.
A little theaterette.
And he doesn't see Elise there, and none of the people want to even talk to him.
But someone says she's walking outside by the lake or river or something.
Yeah, so he steps outside and sees her there. It's very picturesque.
Oh, very nice. I love it. Great place for elderly folks, honestly. Yeah.
Yes, so he heads down there. It's so romantic, and she turns and sees him and says, "Is it you?" And he's confused a little bit, but then he says yes. And, well, she's a little confused and a little bit, baffled.
Taken aback. Ooh,
Eventually, her bodyguard / agent appears and tells her that we should get on to, into the theatre.
And in a polite way, tells them to bugger off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And she then follows her agent to the dining hall eventually, and dear old Richard follows, and he tries to dance with her for a bit, but she's still a little nervous and fearful for
And
us.
her manager gets him thrown out.
Eventually, but before that could happen, Elise steps in and wants to talk to him before he gets thrown out. So she asks him a few questions like, "Oh, where you based? What profession you are? What's your name? Your full name?" Stuff like that. And he answers all her questions, and she thinks he's just another playwright asking for her to be in his play or something. But you got him all wrong, so he says to her. He just wants to get to know her, stuff like that.
Yep.
And she says, "You're just a total stranger to me, and I don't wish to know you," all that stuff.
And being Jane Seymour, who wouldn't want to get to know her?
Yeah. So
Well, she was a Bond girl.
true. Anyway, they parted, and eventually, the next morning, he's sleeping on a bench. So you know.
He doesn't have a room till that morning, you see.
Yeah.
He came early.
Yeah. He then arrives at her room and suggests they take a nice a walk, or at least
Promenade down.
Yeah, of course. She kept saying that she has to work. She has to do or rehearsals.
Have a rest and have rehearsal. Yada yada yada. All the above. Yeah.
But he pleads with her, or in a funny kind of communistic way. Eventually, she gives in and he says, as she slams the door, "She's crazy about me." I love that. It's cute.
Yeah, you can always tell, can't you? Yeah.
Eventually, let me see. Her agent approaches him while he's having breakfast and demands what his intentions are.
Oh, his intentions honourable.
Yeah.
No, not really.
Yeah, right. So anyway, of course, he says that his intentions are honourable, and he doesn't necessarily want her to be in a play or anything, and that he just wants
to meet her. Mm-hmm. And spend some time with her because he's falling in love with her portrait in the little gallery. And
eventually they meet up, and well, in a funny way, because her agent's not too far, and they decide to take a horse and cart or whatever, and try to make their daring escape from him in a funny way.
Giddy up horsey. Yeah.
And they have a nice stroll. It makes me think of something out of Claude Monet or a Rockwell painting looking at the scene. It's so pretty. You see...
Very, very nice. Actually, it was very staged, wasn't it?
Yeah, very.
It looked like portraits and stuff, the way like you'd expect. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so romantic and really cool. Just
by gazebos, doing this, doing something else. Yeah, it looked like they're all staged a bit like a portrait. Yeah.
He then asks her, as they were walking up to a lighthouse or building anyway, I'm not sure what, but he asks her, why did she say, "Is it you?" And she says that her agent told her that a man will appear in her life and will change her life, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Somehow he knows things.
Be very afraid.
But then I even wrote on the lake, and he's humming Rhapsody song, and she thinks
that's beautiful. It hadn't been written yet.
Yeah, it was done in I think 30 years later after this.
Yeah.
Or I'm not sure. I've just only heard that it was written.
It was written some decades later. That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so they then head back and they head into her room, and he gives her a nice cute kiss, and of course the agent's there telling him to F off, but she... In
the nicest possible way, not.
Yeah, she then mentions that she'll give Richard a ticket
to the theatre.
To the theatre.
To see him. Yeah. See her strut stuff on the stage.
Yes, and hopefully... Eventually, the play starts happening, and it's in full swing. It's a comedy, really funny, and everyone's laughing.
Yeah, but
then she says some dialogue that was supposedly ad-libbed in the scene.
At the end of scene one, he broke away from the
script,
and she is saying what was in her heart about Richard.
Yeah.
Which actually suited the play reasonably good.
Yeah.
So it wasn't totally out of place.
Yeah, of course. Some of the guys, the script, the the guy who gives you the bits of dialogue when you accidentally flip over the line or something, he's actually questioning what the hell was going through your head doing that.
There's a look on his face. Yeah, he didn't say that, but it'll kind of hiding hole in the front of the stage. The prompter or the
prompter. Yes, sorry, I forgot, guys.
The prompter. Yeah, say hey, this is it. That's the next word. Hurry up.
But somehow she was able to get the scene back even after.
And he had a big smile on his face. That was really good.
Yeah, it was beautiful dialogue. And eventually she's called backstage to do a brief photo taken.
A Kodak moment, yeah.
Yeah. So she heads backstage, and this is and Richard.
Well, they're trying to get the pose and get a nice look on the face, and they weren't getting too much success there. And then Richard appears just behind the camera guy, and he gets this nice, wonderful, glowing smile look on her face.
Yeah,
and that was the same photograph that he saw in this gallery in the motel 50 years later or something.
Yeah, and then he feels that that smile was meant for him, and he felt that way throughout the second act of the play.
Exactly.
And then he gets a letter from that horrible agent guy, demanding demanding a bit of a
quick meeting.
Yeah. And he asks him about his attentions again, and says flat out that. Well, not really. The agent says that he doesn't intend on making her his mistress or anything. He intends because he sees greatness in her, and he doesn't want any other person to interfere with it.
Yeah,
something like that. But Richard says he doesn't intend on messing it up.
He's going to let her act and stuff. That's why I think he was jealous of him, because he was going to let her act. And what happened next? He got these thugs to beat him up and tie him up and dump him in the stable.
Yeah.
Hello? That sounds like, that had a very positive outcome, that discussion,
and then he tells her that Richard left the hotel.
He lied.
Yes.
See, jealousy.
She then gets the young porter, to allow her to enter Richard's room, and it's empty.
Apart from he did travel lightly. He didn't have. Remember, he didn't bring any luggage with him. He had his shaving gear, cutthroat razor, one little brushes you to do your foam with on your face, and maybe change underpants. That's about it.
Yeah. So anyway, those are the clothing on his back, so to speak.
That's it. So, and that's one thing. The costumers would have been really happy. He wore the same clothes all the way through the movie.
Yeah. Everyone said it was his outfit he wore throughout that scene, those when he was in the past, were like his.
It was about 10 years out of a date. He got the wrong period.
Yeah. Oops. Whoever designed the costume probably at the time wasn't aware how many years old it is.
You have to understand, if we go back and say, I want to get some clothes from 100 years ago, is that going to be 100 years? Is it going to be 105 years ago, or is it going to be 95 years ago? Nowadays, no one cares.
Yeah.
So it's near enough's good enough, you see. So he just went there. Oh, that period, that'll do, that's close enough.
Yeah.
And it wasn't. It was a fraction out.
Yeah. Anyway, Richard eventually unties himself from the stables after waking up from a horrible headache.
Well, he'd been beaten up. How do you feel?
Anyway,
3 or 4 thugs getting onto you.
Yeah, and he heads back to the hotel and finds out that both Elise and the rest of the acting troupe have left the quad. The
troupe has trooped on.
Yeah, and he feels a bit upset. But then we see...
He goes outside, sits on the veranda and sulking.
Then we see Elise in the distance, who's also sulking. She sees Richard sitting there and yells out to him, and they
She comes running up the stairs. Lots of stairs. And...
it's a great romantic moment.
And then
they have, romantic sex.
Yeah, they really rumpty-bumpty up in the bedroom.
Yeah, it was romantic.
Okay, romantic.
I guess later on, probably at lunchtime or dinner time, I don't...
Well, the sun was out.
Yeah.
It was morning, maybe lunchtime. Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, they're eating on the ground.
Having a picnic in her bedroom.
Yeah, or his bedroom, considering that she's meant to have left already.
Yeah, happy his bedroom. Yes, exactly right.
Yeah.
My mistake, yes.
And she goes on asking him...
Actually, no, it says they go to her room and make love. So he might have booked in again.
Maybe, I'm not sure. I'm not there, so I can't be sure.
Well, I'm sorry, but they booked into her room. Went to her room because she came back and rebooked in.
Okay, so anyway, as I was saying, So they're in her room, and she asks him flat out, "Are you going to marry me?" All that stuff, and he says, "Yes."
Yeah.
Well, he coughs up, "Yes," because for a minute she thought he was married with children, all that stuff.
Yeah, the actual man's going, yeah, I thought you were going to say married with kids, no?
Yeah, and she says the first thing she's going to do for him, and actually he even jokes, don't you mean you already done that? Yeah. As a joke.
Okay, second thing I'm going to do
is buy you a better suit.
And he made a comment, said, well, I like this suit. I mean, it's really hard to get jackets with arms 9 feet long. You know, he's tall.
Yeah, and then he takes out of a pocket a coin that says...
He has his watch out, and he gives hand to her the watch.
Oh, yeah, he hands her the watch.
Which is the same watch she gives him 50 years later. Yeah,
and... while he's talking about his jacket, he then takes out a coin that was he wasn't aware that was on him.
Yeah,
that
from
says
1979.
Yeah,
Whoops.
and he's not supposed to have that on him, and he realized, and then it kind of whoosh.
That broke his link with the past and took him back to the present.
Yeah, and she screams out, "Richard!"
You dickhead!
Not in those words, but
well, I would have. Would have checked the clothes properly before.
Yeah, I imagine the coin was. Well, it couldn't be left by him. It could have.
Yeah, but you would have checked the pockets.
I think it was probably left by whoever had the suit last.
Well, someone went down the road, bought a Coke, left some coins in the pocket. Yeah.
Like maybe a person in a play left a coin in there and forgot all about it. My theory.
They went and bought a coffee or something, or a glass of Coke or something, or some French fries or something.
Or something. Anyway, it doesn't matter. He then arrives back to the present. He's in a different room, and he then starts crying in his own room. Now he can't really retrace that connection.
He hasn't got the energy to get back.
Yeah, and he then ponders the hotel grounds
and walks around and sad,
grieving,
broken-hearted, and boo-hoo.
He
not eating,
not sleeping,
and
his eyes start getting
red,
or ready eye or stuff like that,
like a slip. And anyway, he snuffs it. He dies.
Well, he does.
We'll talk about the book and the difference in the book
and
later.
As he slightly snuffs it, and the porter, the old porter, and some of the staff come to his room, and they see him sitting in a chair, and they know that he's
almost snuffed it.
Yeah.
And they get the doctor, and he dies anyway.
Yeah, and you see a small smile across his face as he's dying, which means he's going to meet his Elise. And we watch as it turns to a third-person point of view from where
it looks like his spirit's above the bed and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I heard stories about you turn into the third person when you die.
Well, your spirit leaves your body. Us travelling, you mentioned before, whatever. Let's move on.
Anyway, he then floats up into the window, and where Elise is waiting in a heavenly white glowy state.
The way she was. When she was about 20 years old or 25 years old.
Yeah, and he's back in his boring suit.
Same crappy suit. And have we dressed like that for his fraternity? He could have chose a better suit.
Yeah. My only regret in that scene was I would have loved it if in that scene that they were waltzing or kissing.
Well, we're going to do cuddle time, cuddle and a kiss.
Anyway, then the credits start to roll.
Rolling. Sorry.
So anyway, as I said before, our author Richard, the writer who wrote the story itself, he has actually spent his time at a hotel. I don't know, not this one, but
nice hotel.
But when he was staying there, he did see a portrait and of an actress on the wall, and that inspired him to write the story down.
Now, I'm going to jump ahead. I won't talk about production notes or anything at the moment, but differences from the novel. I'm only going to talk about this because the guy who wrote the novel wrote the screenplay.
Right.
So I'm going to raise a few things he changed.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. In the novel, Richard travels back from 1971 to 1896. Right. Rather than from 1980 to 1912. Now, think about it.
Okay, thank you.
if he did it the other way around, the old lady couldn't have been alive giving the watch. Right. Now, the setting is the Hotel de Coronado in California, rather than the Grand Hotel in Michigan, which is in the movie. So they changed the location there a bit.
Yeah.
The book has Richard knowing that he was dying of a brain tumour.
Yeah, and this one he didn't.
No, I'm talking different. Yeah, and it's ultimately let's ultimately raise the possibility that the whole time travelling experience was merely a series of hallucinations brought on by the tumour in the book, not the movie. Yeah. So obviously they changed that to make the movie a bit more
romantic.
The scene where the old woman hands Richard the pocket watch, which he had given to her in the past, does not appear in the book, obviously because he would have been 120 years old. Thus, the ontological paradox generated by this event that the watch was never made, but simply exists eternally between 1912 and 1980. It's absent. In the book, there are 2 psychics, no manager.
Oh, I see.
The psychic was warning her about a man, not her manager, who anticipated Richard's appearance. And Richard's death was brought about by his tumour, not by heartbreak. So there's a few changes, but I think the changes work good for the screenplay.
Yeah. I mean, some people in these movies, they fear I think that they don't even think about writing a story about killing off their lead protagonist. They think, I don't know why, and why so many movies don't even think about this sort of thing.
You stop using the word protagonist. And it works in an action movie, but not necessarily in a drama.
Okay, but you got to admit,
the leading man, how's that?
Okay,
the good guy.
The leading man in the story, they never think about it. They think, if I kill off my character, it will make the story less interesting.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the changes in the novel, as a novel, it's great, but I don't think the novel as it was would have made it as a movie. But when you change the dates around a bit, made the lady still alive, handing in the watch. They couldn't have done that if they had different time frames, different things. Just little things like.
Yeah, I seem to recall that.
It's supposed to be a love story.
Yeah, I seem to recall that a lot of people, some people in the 1900s, 1912, was probably still around, up to the 1980s.
She was 20 years old. What were the dates?
Actually, it was 1974. Sorry.
Sure. Here it is. 80 to that makes 68 years. She would have been up in her 80s.
Yeah.
When she gave him the watch. 80, 85, something or other. So he was, hanging around waiting for love to come back.
I think it was beautiful.
It's sweet. I mean, like I said, guys, it's not an action slasher movie, but gee, I think your girlfriends or wives will like this movie.
Yeah, The interesting thing is the director had a slight problem directing the scenes between Plummer and Reeves, in that whenever he said Chris, both men would respond with a yes.
Yes.
And so he resolved this by addressing Plummer as Mr. Plummer.
Mr. Plummer.
And addresses Reeves as Bigfoot.
Bigfoot. Well, he was tallish, I gather. So they go Bigfoot and Mr. Plummer. Okay. Interesting. Actually, well, getting into production thingies, this movie was filmed on an island. And I think some of it was done in, Chicago as well. But the main story was on an island, and the logistics said there were no cars apart from essential services allowed on the island, so they needed to get special permits arranged and then ship the cars over. Everything was done. They didn't want stuff up in the environment. Everything there, even when they did this movie back in the 80s or late 70s, was horse and cart and whatever. Yeah, they didn't want a bicycle. Yeah, so they didn't want any motorised stuff. They wanted nice and peaceful for the people to go back and feel the old world charm of the place.
I've got to admit, it is kind of romantic. The whole thought of him going back in time and encountering her. It's such a shame he couldn't stay there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It makes me think of another movie. not too long ago. That's called Midnight in Paris.
Yeah,
which is,
with what's who's it?
yeah.
The guy. What's his name?
I can't remember.
The blonde-haired guy.
I know who you're talking about. I mean, I just can't remember.
Your brother acts too.
I know. I just can't remember which one's which. I'm really bad for.
What's his last name?
Wilson something.
Yeah, Owen Wilson. Owen? Or the other one?
I don't know if it's Luke Wilson
The
or
good-looking
Owen
one.
Wilson.
The good-looking one.
They're both good looking. Anyway,
The blonde-haired guy is in The Haunting. How's that?
Anyway, that doesn't narrow it down. So anyway, I do like that one as well, and one day I'll probably do a review on that one. Not now, obviously, because that will be going too far.
It's something like yeah. But anyway, a few more things about production. I like production notes and stuff. When Christopher Reeve was having his last moments with this lady having a picnic on her bedroom floor, he was a little bit hard. He had hard pressed to work that day because on that very day when he's trying to supposedly have a loving interest in this lady, he just found out that his girlfriend companion in real world was pregnant with their first son Matthew, so he couldn't quite concentrate on doing the movie on the day they did that scene.
Yeah, and he was pretty happy that
he was
going to be a father.
He was. So it's a little bit hard. Like, I'm going to be dad. You concentrate on what you're doing. I'm going to be your dad. Yeah, okay, fine. Yeah, you're going to be dad. Concentrate. You're getting paid.
Imagine this is what most actors have to face every day when they're acting.
Yeah, well, no, you got to divorce yourself from anything like that. Actually, here's a bit more. In the film, Reeves' character consults with a Dr. Finney, played by George Voskovec, a time travel theorist. This is a deliberate nod to author Jack Finney, whose novel, Time and Again, published 5 years before the 1975 Richard Matheson novel, Bid Time Return, on which the film is based, features an almost identical theory on the mechanics of time travel. So he borrowed from the other guy's book.
So he made the suggestions of using hypnosis to make you go back in time or something.
Well, in the previous book, the other guy had some theories about time travel. When Richard spoke to his professor, he talked about time travel, and the idea in his book or the movie, the same concept was taken out of the other book by the other guy. Mm-hmm. Whatever. Elise McKenna was a fictional actress, but her
yeah, I know.
She was actually based
off a real actress named.
Where is it?
Let me see. Theatrical actress.
I've lost the name.
It's right here.
What's her name? Crikey. Maud Adams, there you go.
Yeah, so it's based off her, even though I don't think she's really pretty. I looked at a photo and she's not...
Yeah, Maud Adams. No, it wasn't that. It was based on a person.
I know, but it's...
Who was a well-known actress. That's about as far as it.
I know, but I just meant the author, Richard, he's seen her portrait and wrote a story all around her.
It's a fictional story.
Stuff.
Okay.
I know that, Dad, and I just meant that I've seen a photo of her and she's not... I just don't like it that she doesn't smile.
They didn't smile back in those days.
I mean, how can these people not...
No, in those things, they'd say, sit there, compose yourself, don't move. And that's it. They didn't smile, they didn't smirk, they didn't put rabbit ears behind someone's head. They didn't do anything like that. It was a composed photograph. And so very few people smiled.
That sucks.
Yeah. No, that's the way I did them. Blah, blah, blah. I can't think of anything else to talk about. I mean, there's a few differences. Yeah.
Yeah, so...
But, however, good movie. Look, it's a drama. It's not an action movie, okay? Guys, yeah. But like I said, the ladies will love it. It's a bit like The Notebook. I mean, The Notebook, really great book. Love the movie. Girly flick. I was crying through it. But the point is, it's not an action movie. But don't expect any action in it. It's a drama. But with your lady friend, wife, whatever, girlfriend, fiance, not a bad movie to watch.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, it's really touching, and I am sad that it got not a very good reaction because of bad timing and
it was
an
bad
actor
timing,
strike
yeah. I
and
mean,
all that stuff.
The problem was the critics. I think the critics liked it, but the box office didn't show that because of timing. I think the Blues Brothers movie came out about the same time.
No surprise.
That's it. What do you say? And
that would have taken
and because
everyone away.
this was a low budget film, and it wasn't expected to do too much. They didn't push it. Like I said before, there's an actor strike on, so the actors couldn't market it. It just went under the radar, just slipped out of sight. Which is so sad because it's not a bad movie.
Yeah, it's really nice. It has lots of good music and a lot of romantic moments.
Yeah,
and I like the chemistry between Christopher Reeves and Jane Seymour.
Yeah, and she's a good-looking lady, and she's a good actress, and he's a good-looking guy, and he's a good actor, and whatever. And it worked. Now, the thing is, sometimes you get the magic, and I think these people had it.
Yeah, and I really feel bad for how the fact his acting career was cut short because of his leg. His brain back.
His brain back. He's a polo actor, wasn't it?
Yeah, he got his horse made him. He kind of fell off a horse and damaged his back, and he was confined to a wheelchair half his career.
He still appeared in one or two movies later on in his wheelchair, but it would have been hard for him, for fella. Anyway, I was going to say irrespective. I was trying to break the habit, folks. There are plenty available through eBay to purchase, either ordinary DVD or Blu-ray, but be careful if you're looking there because there's still some VHS copies around. So don't click on the wrong item.
Yeah.
Amazon, there's plenty to buy or rent through Prime. And so, go for it. Actually, if you don't want to buy it, just rent it through Prime and have a look at it, or any other streaming services which might have it. You'll be pleasantly surprised. It's not a bad drama if you like dramas. It meets all the requirements of that sort of movie. It's photographed well. It's got a good story. It's good acting. Yeah, I like it. And look, I wouldn't be in my top 10 movies. I like action movies and horror, sci-fi, that sort of stuff. But
but I do like the under radar stuff because under radar stuff could have something that you may not have known about until.
Well, it's like that Dracula movie we had that was made in America at that time. The one with the. Which didn't get any recognition because all the other movies came out at the same time.
Yeah.
What was it called? Remember that one?
Don't recall.
I Married a Vampire or something?
No.
I can't remember what it's called. But some guy actor called something Lederer was in it. He played the vampire. It was a good movie, but because all these other things happened at the same time, it just disappeared.
Yeah, it practically came out when Hammer started doing their own Dracula stories.
And they had a Dracula. I can't remember the name just a moment. We saw it a couple of years ago.
It just went under the radar and probably went directly to television.
Well, it might have. Yeah, it just went there and just didn't get any good interest. Wasn't a bad. Look, it wasn't a top movie, but it wasn't a bad movie.
I wasn't sure about the story either myself.
It wasn't bad. I'd say it wasn't an A type movie, but it was a good, say, B plus movie. But the point is, it went under the radar because same thing. Too many good things hitting the theatres at the same time, and no one saw it. It happens. Yeah. Anyway,
should we rate this movie now?
I can't think of anything else. I'm going to look. I try to rate these per genre. I don't compare a fantasy to a sci-fi or horror. So, out of the fantasies I've seen, a fantasy drama, not like Lord of the Rings type fantasy. I think I've got to give it a 9.5. It's really well done. It's a good drama, intriguing story. And it's a good watch. Yeah, 9.5. Yeah, good 9.5. Yeah,
I'm going to give it a 9.5 too.
9.5 and a 2. There you go. That makes 11.5. No, sorry. 9.5, sorry. As well as. Okay.
Yes, so it's an awesome take, and I advise you definitely give it a check out, guys.
You're around on Prime or somewhere else. It's a good movie. But like I said, with your guys, with your partner, girls, by yourself if you want to. If you can't drag your partner into the room, that's okay.
And it's always good to watch something like what Christopher Reeves did before
while he's
he
still
got
walking
confined
around instead of being
to
a sporting wheelie. Yeah.
And if you guys are into the whole Superman movies, it's always good to check him out in other movies too.
Yeah. Anyway, no, he's had an unfortunate life. He died quite young, didn't he?
Yeah,
youngish. Because obviously being a quadriplegic and stuff.
Yeah,
and
if I had
other health issues.
Yeah, if there was any money out there, I would love to invent a way for people to get their spines fixed so they can walk again.
Yeah, it's bad for him. But anyway, irrespective, to you, Christopher, wherever you are, it was a good movie.
Yeah, and to Jane Seymour, whom I imagine is listening.
Wasn't seeing that George Lazenby biodoc thingy
becoming Bond? Yeah, she was.
She's still around.
Yeah,
somewhere.
To Jane Seymour, good performance and very well done on your acting. And I hope I get to see you more in a few years' time.
Well, you look good in becoming Bond, so you're looking after yourself.
Well done. Yeah. Anyway, that's about it for us tonight, guys. So, this is Sarah Stephenson.
And Marl.
Saying we'll see you guys for our next podcast. Bye for now.
Bye, guys.